Welcome to the Enlighten podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlighten podcast. So happy to have you back with me tonight. And today I have Tawny Michelle returning to the show. Tawny, how are you doing?
Good. I am doing really good.
It's been a while. I think the last time we had you on was to talk about the Pluto return back in October.
Yes. And so much has changed since then. It's been crazy.
I know. Yeah, you've gone through quite the journey since then. So much has been shifting and opening up for you. Let's get into that because I've loved watching some of your new content that you've been putting out, and I know you just launched a new course and you've really been tapping into that goddess divine feminine energy. So what happened? Did you kind of hit like a plateau or something along your journey that just catalyzed this?
Yeah. So it's so funny. So I've been I thought of this like the other day. I was like, last year was like the Jupiter and Aquarius Tawny. And this year is like the Jupiter and Pisces Tawny, like all the way. But so my Jupiter and Venus are conjunct in Virgo. And so this Jupiter moving through Pisces has been like opposing that. And I've been loving it because it's been really showing me where to let go of like the practicality and the details and the groundedness of it all, and to kind of just thrust into like the unknown and into faith and all of that. And so last year, it was different for everybody, I think, last year, and that feels so far away now for some reason. But I mean, just with everything that was going on in the world, I was so caught up in that and trying to, because I was learning all of these new things and about the world and, all the Aquarian energy of just like what's going on with everybody else and society and us as a whole and our species and all of these types of things. And then this year, though, it has changed drastically, and it really started kind of like at the end of last year. So at the end of last year, that solar eclipse in Sagittarius, it was in my 5th house, and so I was just kind of like going through all of these lessons I had actually been learning the last couple years with that transit of like passion and sexuality and um, living in desire in your heart, and where that could actually be toxic at times, depending on how you're doing it and how far you're going with it. And then that was kind of like a major moment for me where it was like something got kind of unleashed in me. And it had even been building up before that. So I had kind of shifted the way I was doing my content, which I really needed. I was kind of at like a place of like work smarter, not harder. And last year I was just very stagnant with my spiritual path and with what I could offer to the world. I got to a place where I was kind of running out of ideas. I felt like I had hit some kind of like spiritual ceiling where it was kind of like I don't know what else to offer, you know, like I was just kind of like empty, but this was my job, so I was still doing it, you know. And so it just, I was just very, and then I was so caught up with what was going on in the world, and then eventually I realized that it's all fear, you know. And when you're caught up in that, you're living from that place of fear, and a place of powerlessness, because there's not much that you can do. And so the more that you watch, the more that you learn, the more you feel powerless, and the more that mirrors back to you your powerlessness. And so you're just in this constant state, or I was in this constant state of like, how do I help? And the only way I knew how to help was, let me share about this, let me talk about this, let me speak up about this, you know, because no one, a lot of people really weren't, not no one, but a lot of people really weren't, I felt, for a while. And so that kind of started morphing as I started having these realizations, like, okay, this is not getting me anywhere, I'm not happy, this doesn't feel good, like, it doesn't feel good to focus on, it doesn't feel good to learn about. So why am I continuing to do this, you know? And so eventually it got to a point where I just really let it all go. And it was like January came, and I was really like, I started getting kind of these lessons of the feminine when Venus was in Capricorn, and right before she went retrograde, I started kind of getting these downloads about feminine energy, and how so much of the time we blame masculinity and toxic masculinity and this, that, and the other. But really, in spirituality and in a lot of, you know, esoteric teachings and astrology, even, feminine energy is water and earth, the elements of water and earth. And a lot of our issues, I think, come from water, our emotions and our feelings, and not knowing how to be in an aligned place with our emotions, with our feelings, and either letting them control us or shoving them so far down that we're so disconnected, and therefore we can't feel anything good nor bad, you know. And so, and then also the element of earth, greed and materialism and comfort, and this excessive need in today's society, today's world, to be comfortable, where everything is done for us and we don't move, we don't do anything, we just sit there all day and everything is done for us, you know, unless you do have a job where you're doing some kind of physical hard labor, you know. There are still jobs like that. uh but possibly not for long, you know. Like, we're moving into this time of a very shadow masculine world, but the feminine is where it kind of starts, and is what I started kind of realizing, the root to really unlocking these different energies, these polarities within us. It starts internally. And that was the kind of same realization I started having about the world and everything going on in the world. It's like, okay, I can awaken myself, and that on its own can inspire other people to awaken. But by me out here saying, look at this, and everybody needs to be scared because this is coming and this is a big deal and we all need to be, you know, worried about this, that's not really helpful. You know, no one wants to, and I was watching people that were doing that too, and I was doing that, and I didn't really realize that. I used to think like, I'm not fear mongering, I'm being realistic, I'm being real, you know. And I got to a point where once I stopped consuming that content, my significant other was still consuming it on occasion, like watching different, you know, like different things that were coming out, like news, like not really mainstream news, but like news from people that, you know, are not just giving us a bunch of propaganda and stuff. But he was still kind of into it, and I would hear the videos and I would be like, it's the same thing over and over and over. You know, Russia, Ukraine, and this and that and this, and gas prices, and you need to worry about this, and don't beware, this is coming, you know. And it's like, that's not how I want to fucking live, you know? And so I stopped living like that. And I made a decision back in the very beginning of the year, like something shifted. I was on my phone a lot. I was consuming a lot of content, and I get stuck like that because I have a lot of air energy at times. So I can get very like just I can just I love learning new things and seeing new ideas and seeing, you know, what other people are doing. I'm a Libra and I have an Aquarius moon, so I'm like always, you know, I always like to see what other people are doing, and I'm actually somewhat social in a lot of ways, you know. And so but it got to the point where I was like so consumed with that that it was like, okay, well, what are you doing, you know? And what am I doing, and what am I doing with my life? And I got very inspired to jump back into my spirituality, because for a lot of last year, I was very disconnected from my healing and my spirituality. Like, I was still very self aware and I was still addressing things as they came up, but I was not really actively on that journey. It just became more about astrology and what was going on in the world and how astrology relates to what's going on in the world. It just became very masculine and very in my mind and very logical and less ethereal, less, you know, less flow, like less, there's less flow involved. And so this year it really has been about flowing and really jumping into energy and
Mhm.
polarity and the different dynamics between masculine and feminine energy, and how it really is like at the root of so many things. And so, and I didn't, when I first started, like I said, I was getting downloads about feminine energy, but I wasn't 100, that wasn't really what my goal was. I wasn't like, I'm going to go tap into my feminine energy and my inner goddess. It was just kind of like, I'm done living this way. And it wasn't even that I was like miserable at that time. Like, I was actually doing pretty good. I was getting consistent on YouTube again. I was posting videos. I was like doing TikToks all the time. I was like, I was feeling a little bit more creative. And, but it got to the point where it was kind of like, I want to do more. You
Yeah.
know, it was like I wasn't, and it's crazy because normally awakenings are always happening for me when I'm in a really rough spot or when I'm like losing everything and like I'm, you know, going through this major like death and rebirth experience. But this particular awakening, I was just okay. I was
Well,
just like, I was okay. I wasn't like,
yeah, but in many ways though, you kind of were going through like the whole world is going through like this death
yeah.
and rebirth awakening, right? And I think we forget about, or maybe we don't understand uh what am I trying to say here? The intensity behind what we've all gone through over the last couple of years. It's been
Mhm,
like constant trauma all day long in our faces, not knowing what's coming around the next corner. So much
mhm,
fear porn coming from like both sides of the aisle that
mhm,
that has got to impact us. And I think, you know, until you actually pull yourself out of it, you don't realize how much it was consuming you and how much stress it was actually putting
mhm.
on you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
like like 6, 7 months ago would look at me now and be like, you're just avoiding, or
yeah,
you're
I
just, you don't, you, you're living too woo woo and too like, you know, whatever. But actually, deep down, going through all of that, I knew deep down, because I know like I know, I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but I know like the principles of spirituality. And I would say that I'm a very self aware person. And so I knew deep down a lot of last year that it was kind of like, okay, but what now? What are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? You know what I mean? Is this really necessary to be consuming all of this and living in all this day after day after day? And like it just, I kind of knew deep down that I wasn't. in alignment internally, because I've experienced being in alignment internally before. And that's not what it felt like, And so it just, yeah, but I agree. And I've said similar things. Like it really has been just constant trauma.
Mhm.
And so, but this awakening was different. It was unlike anything I've ever
Yeah.
experienced before. And it just came one day. I was just like, I'm done living like this. Not that like I said, not that I was in like a super horrible place. I'd already worked through a lot of the fear. I wasn't obsessing about things anymore. I was still watching things, but not as much. I wasn't doing it all day. I was like, starting to open up to other different types of things too. I was starting to focus more on my channel and get a little bit more like grounded and right here, right now, and being present and all of that. And then something, I just made the decision and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And that from that decision, it was like the universe opened up and was like, welcome the fuck back. Like, let's, like, and it was just amazing. And I started getting really back into my spirituality. I just started going in and in and in, like how far inside of me can I go? And it didn't occur to me until maybe like a month in that, oh, this is feminine energy, because feminine energy is a lot of the internal world, and feminine energy really is, when you kind of lean back, when you kind of soften, it's like things are able to start coming through you, like your natural abilities, your natural connection, your natural connection to your soul, to source, etc. Things start coming through you. And so I started like channeling and having all these downloads, and it just became like just really amazing and blissful. I started experiencing like pure bliss, like states of bliss and gratitude, and it was just absolutely amazing. And then eventually I got to the point where I realized the word goddess started becoming very prominent. And I got to the point where I started realizing, okay, so you're so in the flow, you're so tapped in, and you're so tuned out of like physical reality. You're not doing anything with structure. I had it like created a video in like weeks. I was just like flow, just the complete flow state. And then it became time to like do my like monthly video or something, and I was like, oh, but I don't want to. I'm like in this beautiful place of just flow. I don't want to do anything too structured, like too masculine, And then that's where like the lessons of the masculine kind of started coming in, and I started really learning how to incorporate my masculine and be in like a healthy balance between my feminine and masculine, and be in like a healthy place with my masculine. And so and what the healthy masculine actually looks like, because I didn't have a lot of examples of that. So in my life for a long time growing up. And so, yeah, it was just really beautiful. And then ever since I've just been, and that's when it really occurred to me like, oh, the goddess is the balance of masculine and feminine. It's a woman in balance with her masculine energies and her feminine. And when you're in balance, you lead from your soul.
Mhm.
And that's what I started doing, and that's what I've been doing. And it's like now I can it was like this whole journey. Like I had nothing like I had ever experienced before. I started being able to hear my higher self, my soul, whatever you want to call it, like come through me. I started getting really into quantum manifestation and the energetics of money and abundance, and like just all these different subjects that I usually would have not like, once again, me last year, I would have looked at like, that's so woo woo, like I can't, that's like too much, you know, like, because I've always prided myself on being very practical about things, like that Virgo energy with my Jupiter and Virgo, like looking at things and beliefs in like a very practical and realistic way, and not getting too out there, you know, like too unicorns and rainbows and twin flames and all of that. And like, but I've gotten very woo woo this year. I'd say it's Jupiter and Pisces, but it's real, and that's the thing. It's not coming from this like, oh, I wish it were real, or I'm just saying this because it sounds really mystical and whatnot. Like, I'm saying things because I've experienced them and I'm continuing to experience them, and it really is like, just, it's real. Like, it really is happening. Like, energy is real, and I've always known that, but I had never really gotten into the realm of integrating energetics. Like, I would have
Mm,
phases where I would get into energetics, but not really, they would never really last, or I wouldn't really know what to do after, you know? And
yeah.
so yeah, so that's basically the whole short and
Well,
story.
that's awesome because, well, there's a few things that you mentioned there that, I'd love to touch on. One is, understanding the principles of the masculine and the feminine energy are so necessary and so fundamental to our creation, and the harmony of our relationships. Like, there's everything revolves around those two energies being in harmony. And it's like the understanding that the feminine energy is all of our creative aspects. It's our ability to go into the unknown and to surrender, to just dive into the mystery of all things, be okay with not knowing, go into our shadow side, go into that nurturing element. And then, like, it's very abstract. There are no lines, everything's curvy, everything's blended. But then, where does that energy go to in order to manifest something? You need the masculine energy to provide the container, to give it the structure, to give it the direction, the focus, the lines that will guide it in one way. And so it's like this beautiful, it's ultimately the synergy of the polarities. What we've been experiencing is so much division of beliefs and ideologies and what's right, what's wrong, that we don't know how to get along anymore. We don't even know how to integrate into one another's worlds without there being like this major clash. And like you, I was very much vocal on my channel for a while about a lot of the things, and sovereignty is very important. But one of the things that I started to realize, especially about a year ago, last spring, was that with the whole thing coming up with the jab, is that I'm like, I'm scared of it. And if I'm scared of it, I'm giving my power away to it. And I go,
Mhm,
how am I sovereign if I'm not able to see that it is not more powerful than me? And
mhm,
I had to, like you, there was many choices that I had to make where I just had to stop watching videos. And I had people sending me videos all the time, like, did you see this? Did you see that? And half the stuff I don't think is true. Half the stuff I think is likely there's some truth in it. I go, but the energy of it is really scary, and it really grates on your own ability to stay harmonized in your own field. And it
mhm.
becomes very distracting. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have to unprogram myself from all of this stuff. Like, how do I know if it's true or not? And even if it is, like, what do I want to create in this world? What is it
Yeah.
that I want to create? And I'm like, I don't want to. I know I can't solve this problem with the same frequency that created it. And right now I'm operating in the same frequency. And
Mhm,
so having to elevate yourself and make a choice is one of the first biggest steps, in that, it's like, I always liken it to the ace of swords in the tarot deck, where, with that sword, you are cutting through one reality in order to make a new one.
mhm.
And that's ultimately what a choice and a decision does. And so
Yeah.
you allowed yourself to have this new experience without all of the other narratives piling in and taking up space, or, whatever it might be, because it does affect our field. And when you're out of it and then you start going back into it, you feel it. Like
Mhm.
even just today, I was laughing at one thing and I sent it to a friend, and their first response was political stuff, and it had nothing to do with it was just a really funny thing. And I know that was me. That was me like over a year ago, and I couldn't like pull myself out of it. And it's like,
Yeah.
man, when you get pulled into all the narratives, you don't have your own narrative anymore of like whatever it is that you create. And so that I think is like super big. But I love what you also talked about in the beginning is this idea of powerlessness and how much power we do give away when we allow like all of this stuff to consume us. Because
Mhm.
before social media, this stuff never consumed us at the
Yeah.
rate that it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
It
like,
really didn't.
yeah, so how has it been for you kind of reuniting with your own power? Like, what have you discovered within your own power that you didn't realize was there?
Um, so it's been fucking amazing. It's been like truly freaking amazing. Um, so naturally when you expand, and that's another big thing, it's like expanding, upgrading, like just constant, like quantum leaping. Like literally I don't even resonate with myself 2 weeks ago, let alone a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Like it's been insane. Like things have been going by like so quickly and happening like so fast. And um basically I would say that what tapped me back into my power wasn't the amazing feeling of bliss or expansion or whatever. It was the massive fears, the massive like contractions, the times of like I would like it felt like levels. Like you like the way that I've explained it before is like when you're playing like a video game, and you're on the first level and you decide to play the video game, and you're like, okay, yes, and like you start getting all these points, and you start like finding these like little gems and whatever, and you're like, this is amazing, I love this game, this is so fun. And then at the end of the level there's like a big monster that you have to face to get to the next level, and you're like, oh, this is scary, I don't know if I can do this, am I ready for this, do I have the experience to handle this, like I don't know, this is my first time playing this video game, so I don't know. And you you're not gonna, sometimes, I mean, some people may get mad enough or frustrated enough to where they're like, screw it, I quit, I'm just not going to play the game anymore. But some people are going to keep going until they beat the monster so they can get to level 2. You know what I mean? And it's not that you're any less scared. The whole time while you're facing this monster, there is like a level of fear. And so I've had to really learn how to walk with fear and do it anyway. How to do it no matter what. And so the first time, like when I first started like really expanding, like the first few weeks were amazing. It was like, yes, this is amazing. And I started noticing like little shifts in myself. And then something would happen, like something big, like a really big fear that I had had forever, because the South Node in Scorpio, right? And it's in my fourth house. So it's like bringing up all of my dirty laundry, all of the skeletons in the closet that I've had for years that I haven't wanted to face because I didn't think that I was powerful enough to deal with them. And so that's where things started happening, because as I started expanding, there's a new monster. And it's like, hey, it's time. And I'm like, ugh, like I don't know. I don't know if I could do all that. I don't know if I'm like ready for all that. That's a lot. But it was kind of like, okay, I could tell, because it felt like, okay, if you want to keep expanding, if you want to get to this next level, this is what you have to do. Because the person that you become through doing this is the person that is at this next level. And so I so I would do it, and I would be like, okay, like, yes, let's do this. And then so I would just open to it, and I started getting like these messages of like, you can handle it all. When you can't handle something, when you're saying that you can't handle something, it is saying that you don't think that you don't think your mind that you are powerful enough to do it, right? Like that you can hold it, and really you can. And so it's all in your mind, you know? And so that was like a major thing that's what I think really started like building my confidence even more, and really drastically and rapidly shifted me in a short amount of time. I just started cleaning shit up in my life. And it was like, it's not that I went and sought it out. It would just like, something would come up and it would be like, I'd be like, damn, okay, I've been avoiding this for years. I've been trying to keep the peace in this situation or ignore that situation or whatever. And then it would come up and it would be like, okay, so uh what does being in your power look like with this situation? What would like how who do you want to be, basically? The one that keeps running from this, the one that keeps resisting it, the one that keeps like like avoiding it, or that thinks that you can't handle it? Or do you want to be the one that can handle it? And then the universe started putting all of these different people like in my path, that it was like, so I found this girl on Instagram who was like an energetics, sexual business, energetics, like all of these different, she's a bunch of different things. But and my energy like felt, and she wasn't someone that I would typically be drawn to. But it literally, like, the universe and my insides would just light up when she would post a story, and she would be like, and then she came out and she was like, hey, this is my next program, like, here it is if you want to sign up. And I was getting so called to do that program, but it was like freaking $1,600. And I was like, I don't know about all that. Like, that's a lot. I don't know if I like, once again, I don't know if I can handle that. I don't know if I can do that. And so I took a massive leap of faith, and I had like a couple $1,000 like in my savings account. And I took a massive leap of faith, and I signed up for the payment plan of like, and split it in two. And I was like, okay, like I have to come up with an extra like, $800 by next month, because I don't want to spend more of my savings, because it's my savings for a reason. And then that's when I started learning, because her course was like a money energetics course, like an abundance energetics course. And that's when I really started learning like about lack, and that where I was in survival mode, like a lot of the time, where I was in lack a lot of the time, because I didn't think that I could handle things, or I didn't think, like, I thought that I could only afford X, or I could only do Y, or whatever. And I had gotten very comfortable making what I was making, which really wasn't that much. It was just enough. I got comfortable with just enough. And that's why I was kind of saying, when all this started, I wasn't in like a super horrible place. I was okay. I was comfortable, but I wanted more, and I had been kind of like shoving that down. And I kind of like looked back on my whole journey through like creating content, being on YouTube, and living this kind of life, being into spirituality, and like all of that. I kind of looked back at my whole journey the other night, and I really realized, like, at some point, because when I started doing tarot and astrology on YouTube at the end of 2018. 2019 was like one of the best years of my life. It felt kind of similar to this energy, where it was very expansive. And I had all these different ideas, and I was like so excited to see what I could do. And my channel was growing really, really quickly. My videos were doing really well. And I had, I was booked out with readings, like everything was amazing. And I had all these different ideas. And then towards the end of the year, something happened where I stopped kind of believing in some way that I was capable. And it's kind of been like that since, in some form or another. There's been lesser forms of it where I start to feel a little bit better, but I still kind of tiptoe around, around it. And so this is the year where it was like, okay, like I'm ready to expand to better. I'm ready to expand to more. And I'm like ready to start believing that I can. But I don't regret these last few years because they were all huge, huge lessons that I don't think I would have been able to. I don't think I would have been able to do what I'm doing this year had I not learned all of those lessons. Like I learned so many lessons and validation and likes and followers and growing and comparing yourself to others and comparing your success to others and feeling not good enough. And who are you creating for? Who are you even freaking creating for? And like I learned so many lessons in this journey of being on YouTube. That's been like a whole healing journey of its own, itself. And so yeah, I think like, and I just had like my first 5-figure month, like, which is absolutely insane. And once again, I think it's just like by me stepping into my power in the difficult situations when it really matters, when it's like no one's looking, I could be the old me. I could retreat and, not and not do it, or I could like be in my integrity and do what I know is right. But it's scary, but it's right, And so and by doing that is where things really shifted. And so kind of being back in my power and like what you said about like the jab and all of that. Like I was just with my sister yesterday. I had a totally goddess day with my little sister yesterday. She is 14, I want to say now. And she is just turning into the most beautiful woman. But I got to buy her a dress yesterday. Like I offered to buy her a dress for her prom. And because she was asking if I had one that she could borrow, and I was like, no, I never went to prom. Like, sorry. And I was like, and this is not the type of thing that I do. Because normally I'm very like, I have to save and hold on to my money because I've been in survival. I've been like homeless. I've been all of those things. And so I'm never going to do that again. So I am going to make sure that I save the shit out of my money, like, and I'm very frugal with what I buy. I'm like always looking for a bargain, and I'm always like, it's just, and I'm like done with that because it's not a way to live. And so I like, I was like, why don't you just get a new dress? And she was like, oh, like, I don't have it right now, and neither does my dad. And I was like, okay, well, I do. So when do you want to go? And she was like, oh my God, can we go tomorrow? Thank you. And I'm like, yeah. So we go tomorrow, or we go the next day, which was yesterday. And she picks out this dress, and it's so beautiful. And it's like the perfect one. And it's like over $100. And usually I'd be like, let's try to find one like under $100. Like we can go to like secondhand. We can go, like, I was just always looking for a deal because I usually get my stuff usually at like secondhand stores and stuff because it's affordable. And I'm like, I don't want to spend $40 on like a shirt, that's stupid. That was always very stupid to me. So anyway, so I'm like, she looks at me with tears in her eyes and she's like, this is the most beautiful that I've ever felt in my life. And I was like, oh my God, like my heart just melted. And I'm like, okay, come on. let's get it. Let's get it. We're getting it right now. Like without even like a doubt in my mind. I was like, this is happening, like,
Mhm.
and I didn't care. Like I had the money too, but even if it was like my last $100, I would have done it, at this point, because I've had those experiences too in the last few months where it's like, oh, I feel really called to do this, but it's like all I have in my bank account right now, and it's like, fuck it, I'm doing it, and then I do it, and then like literally like the next day, it's like I get that back double, and it's like, and it just keeps happening like that. But we were also at the park at one point, and there was this bee, and she was freaking out about the bee. I'm like, it's not even anywhere near you, like you're fine. And she was like, how are you not freaking out? It's like right above your head right now. I'm like, because I'm more powerful than the bee. And I was like, be more powerful than the bee. And she was like, okay. And
I
so
love it.
I know. And so so when you said that about the job, I just kind of like laughed because I was like, yeah, I've been saying things like that too. Like, okay, so is this more powerful than me or not? I can act from a place where this is more powerful than me, and this has control over me, and like, and I actually stood up to someone in my life within the last few weeks too, that I used to really become small around. And it's someone I kind of have to deal with, but occasionally, but it's someone that I usually become very small around. And so, and I've been like not scared of them anymore. And so the other week, they were kind of like, we were kind of getting into like a little bit of like a back and forth, and they were like trying to say something to me along the lines of, they were trying to like blame other people for their problems and blame me for something that happened a long time ago. And I was like, okay, so you're saying that you are that powerless, that people have that much power over you, that they can make you do whatever they want at the drop of a hat, that you have no responsibility or no control over yourself that badly, that people can do whatever, and that they have that much power over you, that you act like that and have that little control over yourself. And they were kind of like taken aback, like, what? And then they started kind of backtracking, like, well, that's not what I meant, and this that, and the other. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah, it's
when you start to rephrase what victimhood actually is into words like that, it starts to hit home like a little bit more.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
exactly.
And the thing with money, it's funny because like I'm putting together a course on money right now too. On basically a lot of the stuff that how I've been able to shift money situations using energetics, but also very practical methods in the day to day and how to marry the two together.
Mhm,
And the truth about anything when it comes to money, and this is why, like I say to anyone who's trying to start their own business or do work in a way that they're going to have to charge for services that they're providing, is do not give your stuff away for free, because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, the universe will not be able to invest in you. You're not creating the same reflection that can be reflected back to you. So if you
mhm,
don't give people the opportunity to invest in themselves by investing in your service actually won't carry the same kind of value, because we just don't value things that don't cost anything. It's just straight up
exactly.
how it is. It's part of our programming. And you can
Mhm,
tell yourself differently all you want, but it's just that's the truth, and it's a hard truth. And I
yeah.
think that, for me, one of my big shifts that came for me monetarily was back in 2014, when I was making okay money, but my expenses were just as high. So I was living like paycheck to paycheck,
Mhm,
and I was exhausted of it. And I just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And I had to take the last bit of money that I had to invest in like a reading that ended up giving me some of the best advice I've ever gotten in my entire life.
Mhm.
And it was a 15-minute reading. It cost me like $150 at the time.
Mhm.
And at that point I was like, $150 for 15 minutes? Are you crazy? Like, who
Yeah.
charges like that? That's like a $600 hour reading, you know? And uh I had to do that because I was like, am I worth it or am I not worth it? And
Yeah.
that's really what we're saying to ourselves when we're not willing to spend certain amount of money on ourselves. And I've had to, because I come from, like, for
That.
instance, like, yeah, like my dad grew up very poor. His dad had a farm. They went bankrupt, like, and he vowed that he would never do that. And so he was always very, money was always talked about in a way like that you can't spend on that, or you got to save this, or, like it's always like a lack mentality. But I understand where it comes from with him. He was traumatized. Like, they lost their whole farm, their home, everything. I get it, but I have had to deal with that. And so every time that I want to go and, like, maybe have a really nice dinner and maybe get the more expensive, like, when you go to a bar, like, you're like, okay, there's the glasses of wines to choose from. Usually, like, I would have always chosen like the house wine or like whatever. And now I'm like, no, I'm going for, like, not necessarily the most expensive one, but whatever one I want. It's
Yeah.
the one I want,
Yeah.
and if it is the more expensive one, then I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And it's understanding, like, how we don't value ourselves or tell ourselves we aren't worth it. And every little choice that we make in our day to day adds up and it gains momentum. And so as we start to shift a lot of those things, we start to shift how our relationship with money and our investments into ourselves, and then how that reflects into our future.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. And that's another big lesson I've had is investing and investing on myself. Like, and so investing in that course was like just phenomenal because then it really wasn't even like, yes, I did learn amazing key tools that still to this day have been, it was like it carried me to the next level because I was already having that shift beforehand. And so it was kind of like the energy of the course and the energy of the woman who was teaching it. Like, I just invested in her next course as well, just because once again my body was like yes, because something about being in her energy expands me. And so
Hmm.
that's something else I've been really learning, like when we can plug into a frequency of those that are expanding, it's like we almost expand with them, you know? And because I do want to get like an energetics or like embodiment business, whatever, like mentor, coach, or whatever eventually. But because a lot of them, the ones that I like would really, really want to work with, like I'm not making that much yet, but it's going to fucking happen because I just like I absolutely feel it and I just know it. But so right now it's like, okay, how can I be in their energy? I can invest in their courses, you know what I mean? And then but yeah, and it's been a lot of jumping before I even have the full situation or the full tools to like actually get me through it, you know? And so I just don't, and I've been living more in my body over my mind. Like that's another really big one, like getting out of my mind and the fears and the lack and the what ifs and the insecurities and all of that. Like, and because my mind is just like wants to keep me safe, you know what I mean? But okay, I was safe for the last couple years, but I wasn't really growing. You know what I mean? Like I because I stopped once again, like I kind of stopped believing that I could. I stopped believing in myself. I stopped believing in what was possible. And I wasn't that inspired. And so it's like this whole journey has really like cleared the way for me to have inspiration again and to have like creative energy again, where like I actually like have so many, like I just launched Goddess Mode about awakening to the goddess frequency and being in the goddess energy, and that course is so energetic. And it's not even really a course, it's like a program because it's actually more based on integration rather than information and embodiment, you know? And so, but the women inside that program, and it like, we did do the welcome class this past weekend, but our first actual like teaching is tomorrow. And the women inside that program are already and have been already, like for weeks now, since they first signed up, shifting and seeing the goddess energy within themselves. And that's because I channeled my whole entire journey into this program, my energy, my life force. Like I had a full blown Kundalini awakening one night and was like going back and forth with my higher self for like a long period of time. And I was like, I am literally like giving everything, all of this energy that's like coursing through my body that is just like so blissful. I am like channeling this all into goddess mode. And the program anyway was already like very divinely inspired. And so it's like I created this divine container that just by signing up, like you start shifting, you plug into that frequency, because I experienced that in my course. Like it wasn't like I have to go back and watch the course because I don't even really remember that much of it because I was expanding so much, like so much was happening. And that was like a time where I was still dealing with like a lot of the blocks. I was like in like a phase where I was just dealing with a lot of blocks and energetic shifts and shifting my energy and transmuting my energy and like all this different stuff. So I need to go back and watch, but it was just being in that course and being surrounded also by a bunch of women that were making $10,000 a week or $20,000 in a day. Like, I mean, it was just like, oh my God, this is like really possible. And it started making me like I was tapped into that, you know, and like it just really made me realize how much more was possible, and that it's okay to receive money, and that like, you know, selling isn't like a cringy or dirty thing. You know, you don't have, because if you are fully embodied in what you're selling and you fully know that it's transformational, that what you're offering will shift lives, it's a lot easier to sell.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
when you're and also when you're confident in yourself. In the past, I knew what I was offering was good, but I wasn't very confident in myself all the way. I wasn't very I wouldn't say I would say I wasn't fully embodied in it. I wasn't fully embodied in the energy just yet. I was more playing in the knowledge realm, you know, like I have this information, I have this knowledge that I can share with you, rather than this is who I freaking am. And just by being in my energy, you will expand too, you know? And um so yeah, it's been an amazing ride. Like I mean, and it just keeps going, and it's like I it's like every time like I go through like a massive expansion and upgrade, it's like I feel the next one coming. It's like, okay, here we go. Here's the next one coming. Like it just keeps going. And I've kind of gotten worried though here recently. I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. I'm like, I hope this isn't all just Jupiter and Pisces, and then Jupiter moves into Aries, and then it's like, which I mean, Aries is my ninth house, so I do kind of plan for that to be pretty good too. But I'm just like, I hope this isn't just this energy, and then one day this energy won't be here, and then now what, you know? And like, and that's, and I think that's like a natural part of like, as you expand, you start worrying about like, oh well, what if this doesn't last, or what if I, you know, somehow retreat backwards, or whatever. And I couldn't imagine it, because now that I've even just had all these experiences, there's never been a thought of like, oh, I'm just gonna quit because that would be easier, or this is too much, I'm gonna like turn around. Like, because the highs were are so much like they're worth the lows, you know? And so it's like, and the lows lead to the highs. And so anytime a low happens or like a dip happens, I'm not like, I need to run away or avoid this or, you know, go back to what I was doing before. Like that's never been even a thought in my mind. And I feel inside that I'm going to keep going, but I guess my mind has this like little fear of like, well, what about when Jupiter moves into Aries? What's gonna what's
Well,
gonna
here's okay,
happen?
let me share this with you too, because this is something that I've heard before as well. And it's like, and I always like when I talk about anything astrological, especially like on my alchemy, in my alchemy program, we do a call every second Sunday of the month, and I go over like the next month's astrological alignments. And I
Mhm.
always tell them, like, listen, just because all of this stuff is happening in the sky doesn't mean it has more power over you. It doesn't mean that you're like at the mercy of all these planetary alignments. You know,
Mhm.
you ultimately always get to choose, and you can rise above whatever it is that you need to rise above. There's certain influences that are just kind of letting you know this stuff is happening. I go, but you know, like you can transfer whatever energy you want into any situation.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes with astrology we forget, like, just because the sky is lining up in this particular way doesn't mean that, like, you know, all of like we have to succumb to the energy of the sky.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I know that. I know that deep down. I just like I guess it's just like I I think it's still somewhat like 2021 me coming through where it's like, you
Oh,
know,
well, I mean, it's probably too like when you were homeless, you lost your home, and you know, like it's all of that stuff from our past. We all have it that, you know, we're like, okay, when's the next shoe gonna drop? You know, like
yeah,
when, like, it can't last that long.
yeah.
And ultimately everything is cycles. We
Mhm.
once we kind of like accept that everything is cycles, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the cycle has to go into the lowest low, you know, like it may dip a little bit, but then we can go higher, and that, like, that dip doesn't have to go as low as it used to go
Yeah,
for
exactly.
us.
And that's how I've been experiencing it. Like even, you know, even when there's like a certain block that comes up that I need to work through. And that's another thing. I've been doing so much work on integrating, you know, like really like focusing on integrating like as much as possible because I want to keep this with me. So when something or if something does happen, you know, I have the tools. I've integrated it all. I know how to move through it. I know what to do and it's not and that's the thing and that's why I named my program Goddess Mode because it really is it ends up being like a mode that you get in and it's like okay yeah we're doing this we're doing that this is how you handle this is how you handle that and you're just like in the flow and it happens effortlessly and you're not like oh I don't know what to do or this person pissed me off and you don't get you're aligned you know and you're leading with your soul and then you know there are times though where you shift out of that and you're like, ooh, I don't know what to do about this, you know? And so, but the more integration work that I've done, the more I've gotten so used to like living in this mode and I'm able to stay in it even when there are things that come up or fears that come up or whatever the case may be like I'm able to work through them that much quicker you know what I mean and a lot of the times I'm still able to stay in that mode and not like shift out so quickly. And so yeah, it's been really amazing, but I like there is still a little bit, you know, and I know it's just my mind and I know because I can my body is like fuck yes this is still happening and it's going to still happen and it's like you know deep within yourself now like this is the path so we're all good here you know but my mind's like oh well you know and so it's like looking for an excuse almost well what about Jupiter and Aries like what if that brings up you know, a different energy and you start feeling, you know, down or miserable or like, you know, like just things like that just because I've had so many like super low lows in
Mhm.
life, you know, but
Mhm.
none of them have been as low as I used to be, or as low as it used to get before my initial awakening, before my spiritual journey in general. Like, my lows since then have not been anywhere near as bad as they used to be before I became enlightened, I guess you could say. So it's so I still don't even really know why I worry, because even like the last dip where I was kind of just stagnant for the last couple years, um still wasn't like horrible, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't living my best life, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is horrific and I feel like I'm in hell, and all of this other stuff. So yeah, but you're absolutely right.
I mean, old trauma patterns are really deep,
Yeah.
and they and here's the thing too, because you're expanding so much and so quickly, though there's some of those trauma patterns and what's happened to you is kind of coming up because where you're going, those frequencies can't really stay within you in order for you to get to that place, and so they're kind of coming up for review and release in
Mhm.
some way, or shifting, because it's like your the baggage that you're able to take with you is getting lighter and lighter and lighter, and so that
Exactly.
stuff just kind of has to go, and
Yes.
it's just part of, I think, the cycle of our own awakening, and all of this happens. And I think we just have this false perception that when it's going to get better, everything's solved. And it's just not the case. There's always little things that have to come up. And we experience things in layers because we can only handle so much at a certain time. And so whatever we can handle at that time comes up, and then we're stronger. Now we can go a little deeper. And
Right.
so I think what you're saying is going to resonate with a lot of people in the audience, because we all face that. We're always looking at our fears and the past patterns of our traumas that have played out in the past, and we're like, is history just going to keep repeating itself? But when you start doing things very differently than you've ever done before, it's very hard for history to repeat itself, because it's not the same actions anymore, it's not the same intentions, it's not the same vibration.
Yes, yes. And that's so, like, you seriously just mirrored my own like almost exact words back to me. I just posted a reel this like just a couple hours ago that I filmed a few days ago about that exact same thing, how when you start expanding, there will be different things that come up, like old fears, old traumas, old blocks, old shit that comes up that is kind of that, like, you can feel on this high, and then all of a sudden there's like this bump in the road, or this fear, this block, and you're like, oh, what happened? And it's like, and I was saying like how it's happening because you can handle it now, you're ready to face it, and like you said, it lightens your load, like, and it's like a purification process, to where like you're cleaning out all of the like, I always say, like, if you have a cup of dirty water and you try to pour clean water in it, it's just going to mix with the dirty water, and you're still going to have dirty water. So you have to dump the dirty water out and then fill your cup with clean water. You know what I mean? And then you have clean water again. And that's another like huge thing I've really learned these last few months, is just like what it really truly feels like to be overflowing. Like to have an overflowing cup, to where it's like, oh my gosh, like I want to give so much, I want to do so much, like I have so much to give. And like, because I really got past that place of feeling like, oh, I don't have much else to offer, I have to learn more to be able to offer more. Like, no, what I really needed to do was just like live my fucking life, and like, and learn from that, like, and because like some people will be like, oh well, you know, um, like I have some friends ask me like, "Oh, well, I want to invest in a course because you did and you're at this place and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not what I first did. That was like step 5 or 6 or something, like that happened like a month after I initially like eventually like had that internal shift first, and was like, this is what I'm doing. And it wasn't just like, I'm intending that I do XYZ. And it's like, no, it was like, this is what I'm doing. This is happening. Like I made like a full,
Conviction.
yes. So it was like a declaration. I made like a full body decision. And I was like, no more. I'm done. This is happening. I put down my phone right then and there and I started. And I didn't even know what I was going to do, but I was like, I'm doing something, and I started dancing and moving more. And I started getting really, really into my body and getting into like trance work and do like trance like states and like all of these different things. And from there it just kept going, and I started getting more downloads, and I started feeling more intuitively connected, and then I started, like, my higher self started coming through all the time, and then, like, just all this wisdom from this, like, frequency that I call the goddess frequency, because that's what it literally felt like I plugged into this frequency, and this frequency was like channeling information through me. And then people started showing up in my path that would like echo or like mirror these things back that I was like learning. And then and then it was just like, and their energy would just draw me in, and then that's when it was like, okay, I'm gonna invest on myself, because I didn't understand at the time fully what was happening. I was just like,
Mm.
I don't know, I didn't realize that I was tapping into the goddess frequency, or that I was channeling feminine energy, or like healing my feminine and more in my feminine. Like, I didn't really truly realize that until, like, it was like the courses added kind of some of that masculine energy. Like, it added a lot of feminine energy too, because it was like energy, very energetic, and it was like expanding me in miraculous ways that the logical mind couldn't understand. But it was also explaining, like, okay, this is this and this is that. And it was like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And then eventually I just started really like getting the word goddess and like noticing that word more and like feeling it more. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and then it just all started like clicking. And um, so yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Thank
You
you.
know, and I think when you're talking about like that full body yes, and
Yes.
that's where it really comes from. It's like you said, it's not about investing in a course.
Yeah.
You know, it's about you, it's about the intention behind it of that. It's like that full body decision, because you know the other option is just not possible. It's like not even possible anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you reach that state, it's like everything that you say yes to, it's such a full yes that that energy is powering it up. And it's like when I said yes to myself, I didn't know what I was investing in exactly. I just knew I was like, I know I can't do this anymore. And I have to say yes to my own abundance in some capacity. And
Mhm.
then that just opened a door for a whole bunch of other things. And I started to see
Mhm.
shifts, and I was given certain exercises to do, and I had to embody them. And, like it took time, but it took the dedication. Like there was no, like you said, no going back. Like I'm not, like that cannot happen. So you just keep going forward with all these new actions and intentions for yourself, and full body yes choices. So I
Yeah.
think when you get to that point, it's like you can't look around and say, okay, well, this person did that, so that must work for me. It's like you really got to know what it is you want and what you're ready for.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Hmm.
and that's why it's so important to be aligned internally, because then you know that, then it's clear to you, and then you can lead in a way that is authentic to you. You're not just doing it because someone told you to, or because like because it's like seems like the right thing to do. Like, you're doing it because it is you. And that's another thing I've really had to learn, is like living from a place of authenticity, while also this like new me is like being born, almost like this new version of me that is being born, and like, but also still being authentic and not getting too lost in courses or what other people are saying or information. It's like they're good tools to have, but it's not about it's not always about them. Sometimes you do have to make your own rules. Sometimes you do. Like, that was a major lesson I got. I want to say like the last week of the course I was in, maybe the second last week. It was the last week where I was like integrated in it, but the second last week, the second from last week, it was like I was like I was feeling super blocked, and that's how I know, like, when I start feeling a block, if I don't go in right then and stop looking for outside solutions, it just gets worse. It extends it. It just starts making it even more, like, even bigger, and then I start getting miserable really quick, and then it's like it just keeps going. And so anyway, I was doing that week. I was feeling blocked, and instead of going inward, I'm like, okay, well, let me watch more of this course, or let me go look for another course to take that can give me the information to help me with this. But there was no information that could help me with that, and so I was just really getting like lost externally again. And I was like on my phone all day or on my laptop all day. And it was like, and then, and then I like got like, just, it was like something just came through me. And it was like basically, dude, this is about you. This is about yourself. Like, this is about your own leadership and your own embodiment, and like listening to yourself. And so, and then that was when I was kind of like, okay. And so like I quit looking for answers elsewhere, and I like went and was just like, it started going inside again, and that was how I like really worked through it. And that was a major lesson I learned, because I just was really feeling like, oh, well, the answers are somewhere and I can find them somewhere, and that's what's going to help me. And it's like, and so that was like a really major lesson to me, to like still lead with your own authenticity, with what feels right to you. Even if someone else is saying something different, it doesn't matter. If that's like, if you're leading with what feels right to you, like, you have to have that foundation, you like, of you being aligned first, I think, before it becomes like, let me find someone else to tell me what I should be doing,
Mm.
and so, and that's why, like, in my program, I really called out to like certain women that were at a place in their life where they were willing, they were ready to commit, they were ready to get out of the logical mind and do things that may not make sense right away, or that may seem, very unreasonable or whatever. And that, and they were also able to get aligned themselves, or at least start having those experiences themselves before we even started. And so there was like a lot of them were, I mean, there was like crazy things were happening that I was just like, oh my God, with the people inside. And so with the woman inside, and it was just like, wow. So I'm just like so thrilled. Like, it went like so good the other night when we started. And um it's just amazing. Like, I just feel very freaking grateful a lot lately that I get to like truly do what I do. And that I'm like, I just have like an abundance of stuff to like teach now, and to share with people, and to lead people through, and to help people embody and integrate. And it's just like absolutely amazing. Like, and I'm planning on doing like a money and energetics course sometime in the near future too, just because I've just learned so many different things. But I feel like there will be a large element of feminine energy to it, but there will be a little bit more masculine energy to it. And so it's something that I want to have a little bit more time to really design and like plan out, where Goddess Mode was kind of like, I have pages of information and notes and things and ideas and downloads and codes and whatever, but it's not super structured. It's like very intuitive. Like this is
Mhm.
just it's just happening, you know. And so so yeah, but
That's awesome. Well, so exciting.
yes.
So exciting. And it's just amazing. Like, it just goes to show you that the shifts never stop happening. Like it's always there, but sometimes it's a matter of us saying yes to it and saying, like, okay, I'm ready.
Mhm.
And we don't realize sometimes how we may be avoiding it or putting it off in just some of the regular day-to-day choices that we're making. And it's not because there's anything wrong with them or anything like that. It's just that when you're ready for the change, that's when it can happen. So super excited for you. Let my audience know. I'm going to have all your links posted below about where they can find you and what you've got going on.
Yeah, so I have my Instagram. That's where I really post like all the time daily on Instagram, and my Instagram is at Tawny Michelle Tarology, same as like my YouTube, same as my website, tawnymichelletarology.com. Right now, I have goddess mode. You can still sign up. People are still, it is for women, but women are welcome to sign up and awaken with us, awaken to the goddess frequency with us, and to start living the kind of life I'm living. Basically, it's like going to be my signature foundational course where it's like, the codes and the wisdom of the goddess that I've learned over these last several months. And sorry, there's like a gnat that keeps flying right in my face. So then I also have the creator masterclass. And this is just it's not like a full program, it's a class. And it is a two-part class, though. There's going to be like the class and then the Q&A. And this is really tapping into the creator within us all that is just dying to create in this world. And so it's really about creating in a way that leaves an impact, making things that turns heads, that gets attention, that really like inspires other people, empowers other people. It's going to be and this class is going to be so freak. I'm so excited for this class. Like, obviously I'm excited for everything I'm doing, but this class, like, I was just going over the notes last night again and adding, like, I was having some more stuff come through and I was adding things to it and going through it. And I was like, this freaking class is like, holy shit, it's like turned into something like totally bigger than what I had originally planned. Like, I knew it was going to be powerful, but this is like, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger
Yeah.
and bigger. And so I'm so excited for that masterclass. But this can be for anyone that is a creative person in general, whether you make money from it or not. This can be for people that do make money from creating. This can be for people that want to grow on social media by like creating posts or content or whatever. And so yeah, it really is for anybody that just, whether you just want to tap into your creativity for fun because maybe you're creatively blocked, or whether you want to like make a difference in the world with your creativity. That's basically what the creator masterclass is for. So and then I have astrology chart readings on my website. And then I also have, I'm right now taking applications for one-on-one soul coaching. And it's like, I haven't really found the right term for it yet. Like, it's somewhat like coaching, mentorship, but like, it's to so much, like, because I've expanded so much and learned so much in so many different avenues and modalities that it's like all of it, like if you want to like live a life that turns you on and expand through your wildest dreams and want somebody to like be there with you or help you along the way and help guide you and that's been through it or that has the experience, that is what this is for, if you want something more personal. So I am taking applications for that. And so those are the main few things that I have going on. Goddess mode has already started, but like I said, it's you can still sign up and you'll get the replay. And that's like my number one focus right now. And then I have the creator masterclass, and that's like my second focus right now.
Amazing, Tawny.
What?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, to anyone who's really feeling it and you're resonating with Tawny, check out her stuff in the links below. And Tawny, thanks for coming back on the show. It's a pleasure to connect with you again.
Thank you.
And to my audience, I love you guys so much. Have an awesome evening, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.